Welcome to it Sunday Live here with the Average Joe Sports Show. Apologies about the delay. I will take that 5 yard and 10 yard penalty. Fellas, we've done a lot of these Sunday morning sessions, and there's been a lot of hand wringing. Some of that still, but it feels a little different with the Husker win. What a wild game. Not necessarily thrilling. There were some thrilling parts, but a thriller as Nebraska outlasts Michigan State 38-27. Plenty to get into here. Rules warning, special teams, the streaking of the offense, and how about the black shirt as we talk it all. And thanks to you for checking us out on the Average Joe Sports Show YouTube. Like and subscribe there. Find us on Twitter, AJ Sports Radio. And we'll get the shout-outs going. Yeah, Walter, we were late again, but better late than never, much like a win. Sharpie, is a win is a win.
Yes, they're 4-1 with 2 road games ahead of them. In the past, they would have found a way to lose weird games. That's one of the weirdest games I've seen at Memorial Stadium. Well, one of the weirder games that Nebraska's been involved in, where you felt like when the game started, Nebraska was going to roll. And then midway through the game, you thought, this will be an interesting post-game conversation because they're going to fall to 3-2, 0-2 in the Big Ten. And then the game changed on one weird play. And after that, it was Nebraska scores 24 of the last 30 points, and they found a way to win. And I think we have to adjust, maybe adjust how we look at this team and maybe adjust how we look at the program in terms of the progress that they made yesterday. Of they're more resilient, they have more grit, and chaotic games, they are built to find a way to win more than they are to find a way to lose.
I thought yesterday's game was like going to a concert, and you're waiting for the main act, the headliner, and you've got to sit through Hanson singing "Mbop" at the beginning of the show, and then they play for 40 more minutes, and you're going, just please get off the stage so Ozzy can come on. It was okay, a nice start. What the hell's going on for the next 2.5 quarters? And okay, now the headliner comes on, and things go the way it was supposed to go. It was strange. That was a strange game. The crowd got taken out of it on that monster drive, which is always one of the biggest fears, I think, for Nebraska football, because it has been something that they have not figured out a way, the crowd even, to not let that change the atmosphere. And that long drive sucked the energy out of the crowd. It killed whatever momentum Nebraska had from a 14-0 lead. And it wasn't until some weird stuff happened late in the third quarter that people started getting back into it. And by then, there were a lot of people that already left thinking, I've seen this show before. and it's not going to turn around. These were games Nebraska lost for the past 20 years. So to the credit of Matt Rule and Mike Eckler and John Butler, they got it turned around, in time. And, as one of my buddies texted me in the fourth quarter, good teams cover. So good on Nebraska to get a win. And now listen, as Cincinnati has talked about being a college football playoff team, and Nebraska's going, whoa. Don't forget about us, because they're 4-1 for a reason.
Yeah. How about you briefly mentioned there, Bill? Happy birthday, Coach Eckler, first off. Belated now by a day, but happy birthday. There's a game that Nebraska's special teams won it for them. Simple as that. You should have had one more touchdown with the Ja'Cory Barney return, which would have been good to see, because it's been how long since we've seen a return touchdown for Nebraska. That would have been good. And yep, not needing it. But that was a game that your special teams, Archie had a rough quarter going into the wind, but whenever you needed a good punt from him to pin Michigan State down inside their own 10, he got it. You got the block punt to score a touchdown. You get the change of possession on that weird short kickoff that Michigan State can't field. Your special teams won you that football game yesterday. And we talked about that preseason. Like, man, can your special teams be a positive for you? They were yesterday. They won that football game for you. It was with the wind, it was tough for both special teams units. So for Nebraska special teams to make a couple big plays, they won you the game. Hat tip to the special teams. Hat tip to Coach Eckler.
It was big, fellas. Go ahead, Sharpie.
No, I think it shows you why you go out and acquire a guy like Mike Eckler, who wouldn't want to play on special teams? The guy is a boundless part of energy. He's just a really good person. You know, I don't know if you guys saw what he did yesterday. The Nebraska State Patrol lost a member of their force earlier this year, and he had a NSP badge on his visor that he wears. But you just watch him on the sidelines, and man, special teams has been chaotic the last few years, and that might be being kind. It just seems more organized. There's a lot more energy, and also it seems like there's more coaching going on as special teams before you get to Saturday. Eckler had been telling people for like a week and a half that they were going to block a punt. Like he had seen something that Michigan State was doing and they worked on it, but he was telling people, he was just telling like strangers, hey, you watch, we're going to block a punt against Michigan State. And they did exactly that. And in these weird games where it's the bounce of a ball and at the end of the game, you go, how in the frig did we lose that game? Special teams can cover that. Special teams and the turnover margin. Nebraska's been pretty good to exceptionally good in both of those areas. And, they're 4-1. You look at the chaotic week-to-week vibe of college football and you ride the roller coaster. When you have a game like this, which would have been probably in the past very easy for Nebraska to lose, they just found a way. And I think special teams where you win the details, you play in the margins and you win those margins. That comes to fruition. And especially against a team, I think Michigan State is poorly coached. I think they're a poorly coached football team that I would be very concerned if I'm Michigan State about Jonathan Smith and where they're headed.
That was one that they could have seized, and past Jonathan Smith squads have. That guy's been exiled out to Oregon State before his move to East Lansing, and they were 9-3 pretty often out there under him, and he was good at Washington as well. So that's a game that, you want to talk about two teams getting jacked early with the way that Sparty was down 14-0 before you could blink. And then the fact that they withstood that and then put up 21 straight and then not be able to hang on. Nebraska found a little bit of magic. You talked, Sharpie, about that key play. You're stuck in the mud second quarter and into the third quarter. And then on 3rd and 10, Dillon makes a nice rollout, finds Barney. 2 plays later, it's EJ for a score to get things tied up, and that was the igniter for Nebraska. I thought Nebraska's front seven did a hell of a job, and I know that Childs got some scrambles, and 4th down was an issue, 3rd down wasn't. And I liked what I saw from the defensive line with their pressure. And they played a lot faster. Especially early in the game, Childs was getting hit or had somebody in his face quite often. You had Merritt and of course V9 ball out, and what a game for Buda Wright. He was fantastic. We were talking a lot about the linebacker play, post Michigan, and not just the linebackers, but that front seven had a good day, and the secondary was their traditional self, despite a couple of defensive pass interference calls that extended that 17-play drive. So clearly not perfect, but Matt Rule, fellas, has been warning Husker Nation that this is how life is going to be lived in the Big Ten. 1-score games, close ball games. The thing that I think you're wondering is, did it have to be that way yesterday? If you jump out 14-0, it ended up that way, and you were on the right side of it because you were able to handle the adversity.
But you got to get away from those long drives. But I think Nebraska's defense, and I think I mentioned on the show before, the off week was so beneficial for them, for John Butler and Phil Snow and whomever else, Rob Dvorak. What can we do to mask or utilize our strengths better, given the fact that we are going to be smaller than the offensive lines we're going to face in the Big Ten? So there was they were more angry. I think that there was a lot more athleticism. They played with, they were voracious when they were tackling. That was a lot more similar to maybe an early to mid 90s attacking Nebraska defense with smaller linebacker like Ed Stewart as I go back in time. But I just thought that they were more relentless yesterday than what we've seen, going man on man and trying to beat him through the 3-3-5. I thought Nebraska probably installed some things over the last 2 weeks that they could do that against Michigan State that will be applicable going forward until they reach another offensive line like what Michigan had. But so I think the off week was so good for Nebraska. And I think it's also good now that they don't have an off week after Michigan or Michigan State, that they go right into applying what they did against Michigan State next week on the road for their first road game against Maryland. So I think the schedule has worked out pretty well for Nebraska in the classroom and then to apply what they've learned.
Yeah, and one thing with the defense, Schmidt talked about the speed of the linebackers. Front seven as a whole played faster. Winery and McCullough, they were demons off the edge yesterday. Michigan State could not handle those guys. The interior defensive line was still just okay, but I loved what I saw from the edges with McCullough and with Winery, and that those linebackers. Watson Trent didn't play much, if at all, yesterday, but you saw Shavers, Merritt, Javen Wright. Those guys were just faster. Yeah. They were faster processors, reading and reacting. They were faster getting sideline to sideline. That's your three linebackers for the rest of the season. I've seen enough. Those three guys, whenever they're all next to each other, it's just they're rangier, they're faster, they seem to read things quicker. They had a good day yesterday. I was really encouraged with their progress.
I think there's any conversation about this game, and we didn't play the game, but we were all there. The wind is a major factor in this game. I mean, the wind really changed. They affected some guys because I didn't think Childs played very well. I was kind of let down on how he played. And hey guys, he might have been concussed. When he got face planted by Judy, he was never really the same.
Right.
And, he couldn't do much against Nebraska's DBs, but I thought he was even tentative running. There were times where I thought he could take off running and he could hurt Nebraska. And Nebraska, fortunately, benefited because he didn't. But I think the wind is probably going to have to be a story of how it really impacted guys and maybe impacted some play calling. Here's the thing about the defense. I think the defense mirrored yesterday's game, where there was some good, there was some bad, there was some ugly, there was some confusing. But at the end of the day, in the fourth quarter, you found a way because Nebraska, yes, created tons of havoc. And when Neri played well, Javen played well. The Utes, thank you, Joe Pesci, they played well on defense. So there were some promising signs, but there was also Nebraska can't stop anybody on fourth down. They can stop teams on third down. They can't stop teams on fourth down. And how does Childs run a quarterback sneak to put Michigan State up 7 and no one touches him? Literally, no one touched him.
4 yards out.
From 4 yards out. But then they turn around and they make some stops in the fourth quarter. I didn't like that they allowed Michigan State to drive at the end of the game. But at the end of the day, Nebraska won the football game, and they have some things to work on. But I was encouraged by the young guys. I think they got more pressure, but the young guys are going to be the future of this defense, I think, in the course of this season. And they showed up yesterday. 4 of your top 7 tacklers were either a sophomore, Shavers, or redshirt freshmen.
I don't think Jonathan Smith did Childs any favors after the Judy hit. They cost him a timeout in the second half. He got drilled pretty good. And I think, I don't remember exactly if it was a third or fourth down call, but he was not well. And the cameras caught it, and they had trainers out there, and they called a timeout. And they, their clock management in the second half was awful. But one of them was because he was not 100%, so they called a timeout so we can go back out there. And the backup quarterback was certainly serviceable. He led him on, scored a touchdown and led him on a touchdown drive. But I think part of that too was I think Nebraska did things defensively that confused them when after that big long drive. But they were attacking at different angles yesterday that I don't think they were prepared for. And then once he got hit a few times, he wasn't prepared to get hit again. So I don't think Michigan State did their QB many favors for the afternoon.
He was tired of just getting hit, wasn't he, Elijah? I mean, he was getting battered quite a bit.
I do think you need to give some credit. I mean, we've talked about Nebraska secondary. Yesterday was the prove it to me. Did Childs have a great day? No, he kind of reverted back. It's something we talked about. He's got the physical tools to be a great NFL quarterback. Like I'm telling, speed, the just arm talent that he has. His big issue is it's all between the ears with him, and he reverted back to a lot of the issues we saw from Aiden Childs of last year, putting the ball in dangerous areas, making silly throws, trying to fit it into a tight window as opposed to tucking and running and picking up 4 or 5 yards. Like you saw a lot of that yesterday, but Nebraska's secondary is legit. It's as simple as that. Was the final drive good? No, but also the game was a little bit in hand and you let them drive the field on you. I'm sure the defensive coaches are going to be frustrated with that. Rule's going to be frustrated with that. But Aiden Childs was in hell from that Nebraska secondary all day. He was struggling to be able to read that defense. The secondary is legit. I'm prepared to say that after what I saw yesterday. I mean, you probably could have said it following the Michigan game. Bryce Underwood did what was asked of him. Didn't have a great day throwing the football. But Nebraska's secondary just really bottled up Aiden Childs with his arm. And that's a guy with a lot of arm talent. I'm prepared to say that secondary is legit. I've seen enough.
Well, this will be interesting moving forward because now you're through this stretch of Sorsby, Underwood, Childs, of guys that can beat you with their arm and legs. Now Nebraska is going to face a stretch here where the quarterbacks that they're playing, I guess probably until you get to Nico at UCLA, that won't necessarily run the football. So it's going to be more in the pocket guys instead of that true dual threat. So I'll be curious to see like what the numbers look like from like the next 4 quarterbacks. But I'm with you, Elijah. They're good in the back end, but again, there were a couple of DPIs. I mean, what the hell's Sierra Wright doing? You know, it just Nebraska has definitely made progress, and they look different. It would be nice to have consistency. Like to not go through the roller coaster during the course of a game, because I'm going to be honest, this felt like, Nebraska wins by 11, and depending what number you took, Nebraska could have won this game by more. I mean, they could have won by 3 touchdowns in this game if they wouldn't have shot themselves in the foot. Going back to the quarterbacks, did you guys think at sometimes during this game, both quarterbacks looked like they were starting their 6th game of their career instead of their double-figure game of their career?
Yeah, they were both absolutely rattled. They were frustrated. They had a lot of apprehension with what they were trying to do or what they wanted to do. And, that was for good reason because they were both under siege about every snap. Sparty tried to run the football, and every time they'd try that toss play, they had zero interest at trying to make a living, or at least as often as they could have tried anyway. Going between the tackles against Nebraska, tried going outside, and Nebraska had about 17 guys out there on the edge. So Frazier get a toss play outside and -5, -5. It felt like half the time he was carrying it, and then they try it with Tullis. But with Nebraska, it was the same thing. With Sparty coming in, they were 1 sack yesterday away from equaling their season total. They were at 6 hurries and 3 sacks in the first half. And we got to dive into offense, play calling, holding the football, run game, offensive line, all of that stuff today a little bit, because that too needs to amp up with what's left on the schedule. So Nebraska's a team that is better. They're a team that's fighting. They're a team that is gonna hang in. But the question is this: are they going to eliminate some of their own mistakes to make things a little bit more easy, or make it an easier watch for the Nebraska fans out there? Or is this thing going to be, tight when it didn't have to be? And that's kind of what we're all wondering. But hey, it sure as hell beats the typical post-game reaction or Sunday morning reaction over the years with Nebraska losing a game they had in hand.
Yeah, I mean,
your season goes to the toilet, brother, if they lose last night.
Yeah, see what happens last night is if they don't win that football game, they don't win next week. They probably don't win at Minnesota, and then you're in a world of hurt. And they found a way to win, and they're 4-1 with 2 pretty key road games coming up, and they're a 6.5-point favorite against Maryland. I think there's a lot to talk about the offense, because I think the defense is kind of what we think it's going thinks it should be. We had a lot of faith in the defensive backfield. They've shown up. We had worries about defensive line, still a work in progress. I know there's the offensive line conversation, but you cannot have the offensive line conversation at Nebraska without a conversation about how the quarterback is involved in that as well. But I think the bigger story is, what does Nebraska want to be offensively? Like, they really don't have an identity 5 games into the season.
I think they're searching. I mean, obviously, they're just trying to figure out what works, and also trying to figure out a way to make sure that this place is seen as a spot that can do your quarterback right. And I know we've talked a lot about the future quarterback room, but you got the here and now. If you get a 5-star, you can't screw up a 5-star. So there's that. Your job's to go win the football game. That's first and foremost, and I think that's the priority. But there are moments where, okay, the guy's not putting the ball for the most part. He had a bad interception yesterday. But Dylan, for the most part, is not putting the ball in harm's way as a second-year starter, right? Just 2 interceptions on the season. He has faced more pressure and harassment than many squads that are at 4-1 right now, okay? And he's found ways to hang in. And when he does, when he extends it and holds the football, there's been a handful of times, i.e. the Barney catch yesterday, where it's paid off big time. But you have to also live with, the extra time he's holding the football, where he'll run into a sack, or he's waiting that extra half count for someone to get open, or he's not seeing somebody because he's under pressure. And he needs to either get rid of the football quicker, or they need to make a play call like they did in that ceiling touchdown with Hunter, where it was a quick throw. You didn't have much quick game yesterday till you had the screenplay, right? There was a little bit of running back, Emmett dump offs. I think he had 6 or 7 catches, but there was a lot of long developing plays. You want to call those. You're not able to protect long enough or get the ball out of your hand. You had so many negative plays yesterday because of it.
Well, I think Nebraska's offensive identity was on display in maybe the Cincinnati game, but certainly against Akron and Houston Christian. Let's let Dylan deal it and throw to 12 different receivers and complete 75% of his passes, and that looks really, really good. But you can't find that identity when you're playing against the Big Ten, where teams are a whole lot better and the steps are a lot faster and the coverage is a lot better downfield. So how does he adjust? But I think we saw what Nebraska's offensive identity is. They just are having an identity crisis against teams that are better. And when he's been sacked 12 times in the last 2 games, and Michigan put the game plan out there for everybody else, just make sure you keep him in the pocket and put the pressure on. Dylan, I don't think we see enough of him rolling out and finding receivers downfield. I'd like to see more of those kinds of pass plays. But if he drops out and the pocket collapses, you got a chance to set him back. What was it? 4th down and 42 yesterday?
It looked like Illinois.
After they got the ball in field goal range into a 40-mile-an-hour wind, and they end up having to punt the ball from the other side of the 50. And all of that's because drop back, pressure comes in, collapse. Drop back, pressure comes in, collapse. Move him around a little bit. He's not going to be a running quarterback. He's not going to sneak out and get you 8 to 15 yards. But maybe he can roll out 8 yards one way or the other, give time for his receivers to get open and throw on the run a little bit better. But I think we know what they want to be. They just have not been able to do that against better teams. And that's going to be a problem going forward.
Another thing that I think would have helped Nebraska, especially whenever times were tough in that second and third quarter offensively, you only handed the ball off 16 times to your running backs. They averaged 6 yards a carry. Emmett, I thought, he had the one touchdown run where he kind of broke free. It wasn't a good break free game for Emmett and gash Michigan State's defense. But I thought he did a pretty good job picking up 3 to 4 yards a pop every time you gave him the football. I was a little bit surprised when the times got tough, whenever Dylan was a little bit frustrated, that you as an offense didn't go and hand the ball off more and try to get yourself to 3rd and 3, make things easier on Dylan in that regard. You're throwing the ball on 1st down whenever times are tough, which clues you into what I think Dana Holgorsen thinks this team's offensive identity is. Whenever the times get tough, they want to throw the football around the yard, with the weather and the wind, what it was yesterday, and you should have known that going into the game with the forecast. I was surprised you only had 16 true handoffs to your running backs. I thought that offensive line was run blocking well, and I thought Emmett was running the ball hard. And yeah, he's not the guy that's going to go take 28 carries for you, but he only was 13. Was it 13 carries he had yesterday? That felt low to me.
Well, it's a one-two thing.
Well, and you know, I don't know what they were trying to do yesterday. I mean, again, the wind kind of dictated your game plan, but how do you go from Emmett has the touchdown run of 23 yards? He only carried the ball twice the rest of the game, and the last time he touched it, look what happened. But they went through a stretch from Emmett's carry to 13 straight passes.
Yeah. And
is that okay? We feel we see something, or we don't trust our offensive line. I mean, that's why I keep going. Back to this. You kind of think you know what their offensive identity is, but then, do you got to keep the ball in the hands of Dillon? It's just it's a weird dynamic of where they are offensively, because when Emmett gets lathered up, all of a sudden he'll burst through, and you got good Emmett going on. It was a weird day, guys, because the offensive line, which again, you can't have the offensive line conversation without the quarterback. You look at like Hunter's touchdown. Guys, go back and look at that film. Look at how many guys on the offensive line are downfield blocking. So I think they're in a wilderness offensively. They've got good weapons, but Dane Key didn't catch a pass yesterday. Did Dane Key have a target?
2.
He had 2 targets, no catches. He got held to 2 catches against Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, do we have to have a Dane Key conversation? It's just they're in an odd spot offensively where I thought they'd be, we'd have some answers, but they still found a way to put up points yesterday, and we'll see. I just think I would like a little bit more Emmett, but I don't know if if they're like, okay, we've talked about Emmett not wearing him out, but they had variety yesterday. It's a crapshoot. They had variety. I loved what they did in the red zone. I think that's what was referred to as something we've never seen, is the Harburg to Dillon to Emmett to score. But we'll see. They've got possibilities on offense. Their quarterback needs to play better. He didn't play very well yesterday.
I still just think it's surprising. I don't think Emmett had any negative carries yesterday. I think it wasn't always 15 yards, but I don't think he got bottled up in the backfield. If I'm remembering incorrectly, someone can check me on that, but I don't remember Emmett having a negative carry yesterday.
You are correct. 13 carries, 86 gain, 83 gain, 83 net.
Yeah, I am surprised that whenever the going got tough, you didn't say, you know what, Emmett's been running the ball hard here. When the going gets tough, that to me seems like the easy answer of let's hand it off. Let's get some positive yards. Let's make it easier for Dillon by getting him to 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2, whatever it may be.
Let's talk a little further, fellas. That's Gary Sharp, Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt, the Average Joe Sports Show, Sunday live on YouTube. Like and subscribe to the Average Joe Sports Show on YouTube. Find us on Twitter, AJ Sports Pod, AJ Sports Radio. What do you do moving forward with the offensive line? And to your word about trust and identity, Sharpie, what can you do moving forward so you give yourself chances on the road in tight ball games? I mean, I'm trying to put myself in Dana's cowboy boots, right? And all right, this is what you practice. This is what I think will work. And this is what's going to be called. And then there's hit or misses clearly with it. And that's how football goes. But you had a ton of pressure off the edge with that Michigan blueprint. You have a quarterback that's hanging on to the line that was getting frustrated with his offensive line, understandably so. And they're probably frustrated with him with their bar tab of sacks. And then you have hit or miss with run game. And we've all kind of talked about the passing game maybe used to open up the run game. And you saw some runs pop, especially after that Barney play when they hit him deep. So moving forward here, we know that Evans is a pretty good dude. We know that Rocco had a pretty nice seal block on Emmett's touchdown run. You did your shifting, and you had a couple of sacks given up by Pritchett and a false start. Gatula's, working his ass off at right tackle, and then you got big old Henry at left guard. And right now your offensive line with your quarterback has been a problem because it's gone missing for stretches of ball games. And are you going to live life that way moving forward, or just adapt to it? Because you are, it's either feast or famine with you on offense. I mean, it's way better than it was the previous 2 years pre-Dana, but it's still that type of offense where there's minimal consistency.
Yeah, it'll be curious to hear what Rule says tomorrow about his offensive line. I think you have a combination of, the great thing about the offensive line is they all have to move in unison. All five have to be on the same page. There was a sack yesterday where Pritchett blocked like it was a run play, but it was actually a called pass. And so he blocked down for a run play, and the end for Michigan State ran right by him. Free rusher, right on Dillon. Then there are times where, Dillon doesn't have that clock in his head. And I don't know what the hang-up is about throwing the football away. I think there are times where just get rid of it. Well, if that's what everybody thinks is, hey, we're trying to protect our completion percentage, that's absolute bullshit. Okay? And that needs to be addressed. I'm not going to go there, but I don't know if it's just like, hey, I don't know if I try and throw it away, it's going to be intercepted, but it's just a bad combo when the offensive line breaks down and the clock in the head of Dillon of holding on to the football, they don't sync up. And so you get sacks and you immediately go, the offensive line sucks. Well, that's why I keep saying they got to go hand in hand. And right now it's not a good combo. But Dillon also has that thing, and he still has it, where he'll back up into pressure. I just think his peripheral vision when he gets under pressure is not where I think it should be at this stage in his career. But you also hope that he doesn't take so many hits that he's like gun shy and, is getting a little weebly wobbly. It's a weird combination. It's just, they need more consistency. And I think that also at times impacts their play calling. But the offensive line can help Dillon out, and Dillon can help the offensive line out when it comes to who's ending up on the ground.
We're talking about the number of sacks the last couple of weeks, or at least I've mentioned 12 sacks and the pressure that he's getting. It's only going to take one that could alter his season injury-wise. I mean, Childs yesterday got hit by Elijah Judy. That did not look like, he got rocked like he, could have gotten rocked by Lenhart, who pulled off on that one play in the second half. But Elijah Judy just basically ran over Childs. And he was not the same player after that. You can go back to other Nebraska quarterbacks who have gotten rocked a little bit, and sometimes it's a play where you don't think that was that much of a deal, and ends up with a broken thumb or whatever. He can't continue to take sacks, but one sack could be all that it takes to knock him out of a game or knock him out of a season. So they've got to protect him, and he's got to protect himself too. And if that means getting rid of the football and then taking a hit, okay, that should be a penalty.
How much more do you need to see with this combination of holding on to the football and missing your blocks? I mean, it's got to be moving forward where you're calling. Listen, I'm asking the question, and they put up 31 points yesterday. That's a monster improvement. There's big plays to be made. There's gash plays. So the offense, even if they're playing half the time, has been pretty potent. But you're wanting it all the time, and you're going to need it, a four-quarter consistent offense moving forward with your schedule. So maybe a quicker passing game. I know this is not intended to be a referendum on, a play caller I really like. and just wondering, all right, moving forward here, after that first sack or that first series where you have it at the 28 and you're kicking from the 40, when do you turn the page? And I think there's just this want and there's this reality. There's this want to call the deep crossers, the deep shots, the longer developing plays. And there's this reality of fire drill time on first or second down, where the last two defenses have lined up and teed off on the guy because he's held it or he didn't have time to get rid of it.
So the first 3 games, 114 dropbacks. He only got sacked 3 times. 77 dropbacks in the last 2. He's been sacked 12 times, as Bill was mentioning.
And you know what's incredible?
It's a problem.
In those 2 games, 12 sacks, threw the ball away once.
Yeah,
he did it yesterday.
Yep.
He threw it over the head of Emmett Johnson once.
Yeah, they gotta help each other out. That's what it is. And going back to your point that you made, Schmidt, about shorter developing routes. Yeah, but there's also like and again, Dylan played poorly in the wind against Rutgers last year.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play very well yesterday. I'm not just going to look at the numbers. I don't think he played like we expect him to play, or he has the ability to play. I don't know what happened yesterday. There was a play that it was third quarter, where Emmett is coming out of the backfield and is right across the middle and is wide open. If he hits him in stride, Emmett scores. He never saw him. Like, his vision wasn't great yesterday.
Well, you got
and
his head ripped off and a finger.
Well, no, that's not the case, Schmidt.
No?
When he had time in the pocket,
Okay.
I don't think his vision was very good yesterday. So I think the quarterback can play better. But again, at the end of the day, with the offensive line and the quarterback, they got to go hand in hand. They got to help each other out. When things break down, one's got to help the other. Or, 5 guys up front, do your job, because all 5 have to be on the same page to make it move. But there were times where it looked like they understood a different language from the rest of the offense out on the field on a particular play.
Does his vision, I'm just throwing it that, and I mean this, I guess, metaphorically, have to do with he's going against better defenses than he did in the first 3 games of the season? You've got more speed, you've got better coverage, you've got guys draping your receivers. Dane Key's not getting separation to get open. We're seeing Jamal Banks 2.0. Now Isaiah Hunter made a great play on his touchdown. That right there is a microcosm of, here's a good play, go execute the play. And it worked to perfection. That was Hunter making the catch. Evans had the block of the decade, I think, for Nebraska football, getting a block after the snap and then getting out to make the block that he needed that enabled Hunter to go around. Players making plays. Lindenmeyer, they talked about how on the 45-yard pass play to Barney, that his guy was lined up differently than what they expected. And so he adjusted in his mind and made the right block that enabled Raiola to have a little bit of time to make the pass. So players make plays in that regard. But again, in terms of Dylan, the game's faster the last 2 weeks than it has been, the last two games than it has been. So he's got to adjust, be quicker with his decisions. He can't just sit there for 3 to 5 seconds and hope somebody's going to get open because they're playing against an FCS opponent. So he's got to play the game faster. And if that means, going back to earlier, moving a pocket a little bit, I'm not talking about him running out and rolling, just a couple of yards to the left or the right. Time and space, let a guy get open and make the throw. Not time, space, think, yeah, now throw. That doesn't happen anymore in the Big Ten. And look, Maryland's got great athletes. And I know they gave up the game last night, but that's a much better program under Mike Loxley than it has been for decades. And they have athletic guys defensively that could cause some problems.
And I kind of like the matchup for Nebraska's defense against Maryland's offense, but Maryland's defense is a lot better than Michigan State's defense. And Nebraska's offense made Michigan State's defense look good yesterday. I know you got the on the board. Their pass rush has been horrendous. Their defensive line has been solid against the run. A little inconsistent at times, but solid. Their pass rush and their secondary has been bad. Maybe the wind plays a factor, but Nebraska's offense made that defensive line look like a bunch of killers coming off the edge, made the secondary look good as well.
Well, I'll say this. Simple is okay. and 2 plays that got going into the wind to Hunter worked well. The bubble screen is not a difficult pass. You would think with the into the wind or with the wind. It's when you've played and called and executed 100 times. And then how about Hunter on the little hitch, right? Kind of the option route where he caught it, make someone tackle him in space. It's an 8-yard completion. It's a 14-yard gain on a 2nd and 10. I mean, those are in the playbook too. So that's kind of where I'm leaning, man.
One subtle thing, they made an adjustment in the second half, and good on Nebraska and trying to help out the running game and the blocking up front. Did you guys recognize Lindenmeyer? So Lindenmeyer would kind of line up as an H-back, and he would be a lead blocker, or he'd be a decoy. And it really worked out well. I mean, they got a little bit more push when they would run behind him, or Michigan State, sloppy, would follow him, thinking that he would be the lead blocker and the play would go the opposite way. Or it would end up in a pass play. They ran a play action off of it one time.
A quick note here with that last Emmett touchdown. It was a Harburg and Lindenmeyer leading a counter play. So it's like a double counter. Yeah. Creative play design, creative run. I loved that from Dana Holgerson. I loved the double handoff too. You got more creative with your rushing attack down inside the 20 yesterday. Loved that. But we do need to talk about Lindenmeyer was good as a blocker. Emmett Johnson is a liability in pass protection. He tries. He does.
Here's a ribbon.
He's trying his hardest, but he is an absolute liability when you keep him in as a 6 protector. He is not good.
Well, there was one play where the safety blitzed and he was helping, I think, with Pritchett off the left side, didn't peel off or didn't see that delayed blitz, from the safety, and that's where Dylan got one of the times he got whacked. And I don't know what you do, fellas, because you got Mosey, who I love his lateral quickness and how he can get north and south out of kind of a stutter step. We saw a little bit more of him. You saw Nelson get in for a nice gain for 11 and then go back to the sideline. There's just not options. There's just not a lot of options at running back they feel like rolling with. And that's who you got. And they don't want to maybe put in the best pass pro guy because then it's a sore thumb sticking out. That's got to be their thinking.
I think Anonymous needs to be let us know who he is, because pulling wins out of their ass is better than in 2021 when they were pulling losses out of their ass. So that pretty much sums it up. I would agree with that. I think that's where we are.
That's where you're at.
Hey, history was made yesterday. I mean, a bit of Nebraska history was made yesterday.
Tell me how.
Rule has tied Scott Frost in terms of victories all time in Nebraska.
Career victories. Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Sweet.
Hey, they're 4-1. They're 1-1 in the Big Ten. They're 2 wins away from just, you don't have to worry about any bowl eligibility. They got 2 road games coming up. They can work on a win today. The UCLA game is referenced last year, and ironically, remember, it was a bad interception by Dylan, and it could have ended up in the end zone. How about yesterday? If the guy from Michigan State, if Hall doesn't fall down, he's in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so
a lot of UCLA ties to yesterday.
But we all have so many memories of Nebraska shooting themselves in the foot. Okay, that those games yesterday go against them. Subtle sign that maybe Nebraska not playing their best, they can win games like that. They can't win games in the upper echelon yet, but they're going to have to win football games moving forward like that. And maybe we have to accept that in the 3rd year of Matt Rule, in the year of our Lord 2025, and then go, you know what? A win is a win. And right now this program just needs wins. And worry about it on the back end, and hopefully things underneath are starting to figure themselves out that, okay, now when they get that next opportunity, like a Cincinnati gets to play in Iowa State, they take advantage of that opportunity, and people go, whoa, Cincinnati might be the Arizona State of 2025, a playoff contender. And you're looking around going, didn't Nebraska beat them? You know?
Right. And played pretty well in doing so and handled Sorsby, whose name is going up lists all of a sudden as one of the top players in college football this season. And yeah, he ran for 95 yards against Nebraska, but for the most part, they had no passing game against the Huskers. Look, to go back to what Anonymous mentioned, and I'm thinking back to special teams too, there's probably no better microcosms to look at in terms of the progress of Nebraska than in what was done in special teams. What is one of the most defining plays of the Scott Frost era was the domination of Michigan State in East Lansing against Mel Tucker, and Nebraska has to punt the ball away. Special teams play. Everybody goes to the right, punt goes to the left, and the guy walks into the end zone after stopping at Starbucks and turns the game completely around on that punt return for a touchdown. That was the attention to detail that Nebraska was playing to pull losses out of their ass, right? It was against Michigan State. Yesterday, special teams mattered. Special teams was a huge difference. It changed the game. And I think special teams will change the season going forward because as Nebraska, and it was known Nebraska just treated special teams as, well, matter of factly, the last couple of years, Mike Eckler comes in and makes Matt Rule and company know that it matters. Now, Maryland is going to have to work on Nebraska's special teams game. Coaches don't like to do that. If Nebraska doesn't care, then we don't have to worry about it. But now they've got Mike Eckler. They block punts. They put pressure on field goals. Barney is a weapon in the return game. Archie Wilson can place it like a good 9-iron. The kickoff with the win, I don't think that was a mistake. I think that they pooched that up and thought that ball might have a chance to drop and be recovered or be misplayed, which is exactly what happened. Unfortunately, the offense was terrible after that. But Maryland is now worrying about Nebraska's special teams game, and they're going to have to spend extra time on it. So that right there shows you the progress that Nebraska has made from one regime now to another to be 4-1.
Hey, I mean, Nebraska's so good in special teams. A guy that's only been here for 5 games is the 2-time All Big Ten punter, according to the really, really rough FS1 broadcast that I started to watch this morning. That's
Timmy had
embarrassing.
a good time in the rail yard afterwards.
Yeah, Tim Brando likes Tim Brando, but Tim Brando, Devin Gardner, and the whole production yesterday was not up to par. The game was chaotic, so was the broadcast. I mean, that was, if you go back and watch it, it's just, you can have a bad day at the office, but I mean, missing guys, misidentifying guys. Archie Wilson was a 2-time All Big Ten punter. Isn't the Archie Wilson story pretty well known that he just got here?
I think that speaks to his greatness, actually.
Maybe they're projecting.
He was so good, he wasn't here.
They're projecting.
I mean,
Ron Powlus is going to win 3 or 4 Heismans, and Archie Wilson is going to be a 2-time All Big Ten punter.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I know he's your buddy, Schmitty, but he had a bad day. But I'm glad he got to make some videos and let everybody know that Tim Brando loves Tim Brando. But for people that watch that was like week 0, New Mexico against whoever they're playing, and that crew usually does the week 0 game.
Yeah, it was.
But go ahead, make another video on a rooftop in downtown Lincoln, telling everybody about Lincoln, Nebraska.
That video made me laugh, though, I will say.
I just like the hair flying everywhere, man. Where's Tim? Where's Tim?
Good to know.
And he does love Nebraska, and he's been coming here for a long time from the College World Series to doing Nebraska games. But he had a bad day at the office yesterday.
What's the bar? We were trying to come up with this yesterday. The old Longwells and that rooftop bar that once upon a time existed. You know what that was called? Because that's, I think, where he was shooting content last night.
Well, I asked you last night if that was Peter McHugh's, but you said no. So go ahead.
No.
So I'm still out of guesses.
Elijah, help me out here.
I got to shoot a few texts off. I know it was a popular place for fraternity and sorority events, but I wasn't in a fraternity or sorority. So, Couldn't tell you.
Well, look, if Tim Brando was bad or the TV's ever bad, my guys on Care and You will bring you the best Husker coverage. Bobby Hessling and Blake Mason nailed it yesterday. Futures of broadcasting right now at the College of Journalism and Mass Communications. And Justice Rhodey was in the booth with you all. That's what we're producing at UNL.
Hey, shout out Bobby. Bobby and I chopped it up
Bobby's
at halftime.
money.
Yeah.
He was great.
Bobby said, you watch, man. They're going to run a fake punt. They're going to block a punt.
They had that identified at practice, the first off the block, but that fake, even though it didn't work, that was something Eckler had also identified in film that he was pretty convinced was going to work. I hated the timing of it. I hated the timing of the fake punt. If there's one misstep from Eckler yesterday, it was a predictable time for it.
It wasn't on him.
But you know what? So I'm kind of, it's almost like, okay, we know we're going to do this. Let's just do it now. Give credit. Michigan State, was it Snow? Made a really good play to break that up.
Yeah, but it was predictable timing. Archie was struggling into the wind. Your team needed a spark at that moment in the game. It's 4th down and short. It was such a predictable time for a fake punt. That was my issue with it. And also, even if it worked, did you have any confidence that the offense was going to be able to take a spark at that point in time? They were wet kindling. Yeah. You're trying to give a spark to wet kindling in that offense. Just go pin Michigan State deep and trust your defense to go make a play, even if Michigan State picks up a couple first downs. Just hated the timing of the fake punt. Predictable time, and I don't think even if it worked, it was going to give your offense anything to work with.
Guys, I think the wind, I really do. Like, if you were at the game yesterday, the goalposts in the North Stadium were like the whole game. You thought they were going to snap because they were going back and forth, back and forth. I think it really screwed with everybody. Players, play calling, decision making. Like, I go back to, I think that's a poorly coached team at Michigan State, and I'm a Jonathan Smith fan. I thought that was a really good hire. I thought he had a bad day at the office. What about their decision to begin the second half?
Not take the wind?
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened to Nebraska and Maryland 2 years ago, is they had to win in the fourth quarter. And Rule addressed that and said, we were going to make that decision too, so we had to win in the fourth quarter, and they gave it to us. But he also said credit to them. They scored a couple of touchdowns that way. But, they did not play the elements right. That was a huge factor in the game yesterday.
Guys, as we wind it down, Sunday Live, Average Joe Sports Show, the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman, Denver fan extraordinaire, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt.
Big one coming up today.
I know. That'll be nice. Find
I
and
see
follow.
I see the Bronco fans already all over the tush push today. They're already upset about the tush push, and they haven't even snapped the ball yet.
I got no issues with it. Jonathan Cooper had a good take on this. I think it was Friday, saying, hey, we're not worried about the tush push. The key for the defense is to make sure that the Philly doesn't get into a place where they can pull out the tush push, which is a very reasonable answer. Hey, Philly's great at doing it. You have to take away their ability to do it by not letting them get to 3rd down and 1. Good answer. That's about how I feel about it. I'm a tush push respecter. I think it's like it's one of those plays that if you were to go and take the football fans of 100 years ago and show them the tush push, it's one of the only plays in modern football they'd understand. He'd be like, oh yeah, that's football right there. I have no issues with the tush push. I will say,
do away with the term. God, just brotherly shove. But we got one of the most rugged games, testosterone-filled games in sports in the world, and we are debating the tush push.
I hate the term brotherly shove because I think tush push is. I think it feels like one of those I don't know.
That's the only reason I want it banned is because I'm tired that term just is.
I don't want it banned. I want it better legislated.
I don't either.
Pre-snap.
I call it something else.
Pre-snap officials need to do a better job legislating illegal formations and offsides and all these things, neutral zone infractions. But that's football right there. 11 guys pushing against the other 11 guys trying to pick up a yard. I like it.
Real quick, Penn State, UCLA reaction. And let's sneak in a quick thought. Guys, about 5 minutes. If you
how drunk college football is right now.
Well, Washington, Maryland.
Great.
I mean that's crazy that it flips on a taunting penalty. If you're Maryland, you don't recover from that. You're up 20-3. And then Penn State and the legend of Jerry Neuheisel.
Sorry.
Somebody's got some money on something.
No, I don't have money. I'm in a survivor
Survivor
pool, and I have the
pool.
Vikings, and they're down a field goal, and Wentz just hit Jefferson. They're under 2 minutes to go, and Jefferson made a great catch. Jerry Neuheisel, did you think that was Rick Neuheisel speaking? It is wild
sounds
how
like
they have
him.
that. They have the same exact voice. I was like creeped out about it. I'm like, whoa.
I was never a fan of the Jerry Neuheisel long hair look.
Yeah.
And he still has it. And then he is hoisting his lovely bride at midfield. I'm like, good on you, Jerry.
Did you guys see the video came out? Did you guys see Rick Neuheisel's reaction in the studio?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was
That was
really
awesome.
cool. I think, Franklin can still lose like the games against Oregon, but he's done a good job of winning games that they're supposed to. He finally lost a game that they were supposed to win yesterday. Oregon beat him twice. That is on the feet of James Franklin. And he did not have them prepared in that game. But also credit to UCLA. Man, that's the Nico that we've been waiting for. He balled out yesterday. That was an unbelievable performance. But how great is college football? Texas, Penn State, Clemson. 3 of the top 4 preseason teams have 7 losses right now.
Yeah, what,
Remember
8 and
20?
7?
Yeah. And you know what? And it's, the thing about the sport is we're going to talk about that. But then, oh, by the way, Ohio State and Miami are kicking ass. And Oregon had the weekend off. Yeah.
One thing to note here with that Penn State loss, I don't know if we talk about it enough, just how difficult, and we talk about it a good amount, but I don't know if we talk about it enough, the cross-country travel element, how difficult that is for teams.
But Oregon went across the country and won on whiteout night in Happy Valley. So
I think speaks to what that performance was. And Penn State was sleepy yesterday, but going on the road to UCLA or USC, Oregon, Washington, it might be tougher than we even give it credit for.
I'd agree with that, especially when you're going to UCLA and it's sleepy time there.
Great thing about living in the Midwest. It's halfway.
Yeah.
Hey,
go ahead.
Did you see the assortment of fans that rushed the field at the Rose Bowl yesterday?
The security guard filming it?
Yeah. Well, then there was a security guard that couldn't corral an 11-year-old, so he just gave up.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's cool how they said everybody that's rushing the field, spread out, make it look like it's just a mass of people that are coming on the field at the Rose Bowl.
Dion with an excellent point for Nebraska fans. We don't need Nico balling out anymore.
He played.
Yeah, you know what? That actually I think will catch a lot of people's attention. Like, hey, UCLA is now 1-4. Pay attention to them. Don't overlook them. On a different note about fans on the field, I tweeted this out, and more people now are realizing, yes, that was. Did you guys not see the student that ran from the north end zone all the way across the field to the south end zone during the game and slowed down at midfield because he was ready to get tackled and no one responded? And he kept running. He hops over the short fence in the South Stadium next to that field suite.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he got arrested underneath the South Stadium. But no one reacted. And I was sitting next to John Bishop and Caleb Henry, and I was like, that's not the guy coming out to pick up the tee. That's a student running across the field. And they're like, oh, yeah.
He'd had enough about the 40. Yeah, no more.
Well, I think he was waiting to get tackled. He was like, I'm sure my buddies are filming. I'm going to get corralled. And then he was like, oh, I got to keep running.
Either that or he was sick of watching the offense. He's like, this will get me out of here.
I'm going to look at my attendance roster on Monday to see if anything, if there's one less student in one of my classes.
That reminds me, there was a time at Lincoln Southeast, I think it was my freshman year, maybe it was my sophomore year, where someone ran all the way across the field at Seacrest, hopped the fence onto A Street, and had someone pick him up and drive away. No one stopped them either. It was like the teams are on the field, the refs blow the whistle. Here comes a student who I believe I know who it was, running across the field. No one stops them. They run up the hill at Seacrest, hop the fence onto A Street. Car picks them up, they zoom away, never got caught.
My streaking story was at Dakota State. I was calling the game for the mighty Trojans.
That's an incredible streaking story, Schmidt. You were calling the game and you streaked across.
That would have been a lot of wheezing into the microphone. But
we had
This was at Black
Oh, and
Hills.
speaking,
We have a streaker on the
speaking
stream
of
right
streaking, look behind you.
Monkey, put a shirt on.
That was incredible comedic timing.
Yeah.
Hey, nicely done. Nicely done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. We were talking streaking, Carson. How was the party last night? It was all right.
It's all right. Yeah.
well,
What I remember of it.
on a different note about streaking, we did have an incident on campus earlier in the week. So there was a student that
Oh,
was
for the business.
in front of the business school,
Oh,
made it
yeah.
all the way down to 14th and Q.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you see him on the poor maintenance worker's truck? Spread
Yeah.
eagle on the windscreen.
Yeah, it was touchdown. Yes.
You know,
Sorry,
it
it was an unfortunate, uncomfortable situation on campus earlier in the week. I don't think it was the same kid that ran across the field yesterday.
Especially when my students were going, dude, you want to see this? No, I don't.
Oh.
I'm good. I'm good.
if you guys ever do pull up the video, you can see our good friend Justice Rhodey walking in the background. I'm not joking with you. Justice pulled the video, and there's a 6'8" ginger walking behind him, running down the street.
Horrified.
I wasn't
No,
carrying
Justice
an
did a
average
great
Joe
job.
sign.
It was just a great job. Head
Right.
forward, mind your own business, don't get involved. There's teach tape from Justice Rhodey on how to handle those types of things.
The first team in 40 years to lose to an 0-4 team, ranked in the top 10. Good on you, Penn State.
And James
Hey.
Franklin on my 360 is just crossing the Nevada border on his walk back to Happy Valley.
Yeah, and that's the big takeaway for me for today was it 4 quarters of good football from Nebraska yesterday? No. It's a credit to them that when the momentum went away, they're able to reel it back in and get a win. Thank God you're not Penn State waking up this morning.
Yeah.
Well, and so, I'm going to preface this because, some people are like, what do you mean about Dylan? Your comments about Dylan. I hold Dylan to a high standard. Okay. Dylan yesterday started his 18th game and he's the key to Nebraska. He had a bad day. I'm going to chalk it up a little bit to Dylan playing in the wind because a lot of the things he did yesterday were similar to what he did against Rutgers.
Mhm.
But Nebraska will go for every game from here on out. And this has been the case all year. I think Nebraska will play 12 games where when the game, before we get to kickoff, Nebraska has the better quarterback.
Yeah.
I would take Dylan over Drew Aller. Drew Aller gets a lot of love because he's 6'5", okay? But you don't think that Penn State would have benefited from him going early to the pros and being able to have the kid that's at Missouri right now as their starting quarterback? They've got a Drew Aller problem as well. So Nebraska does have that advantage because I know people are now looking down the road of Penn State. But think about this, guys, because as wild as college football has been and how exciting it was yesterday, and we got backdoor covers from Alabama and TCU, if that favored you, scoring like at the end of the game, just like the Vikings just did to help out old Sharpie in his major survivor pool. Hopefully, Dylan Gabriel, throw a pick, please. Have you guys taken a look at next week's or this upcoming week's schedule? It's playoff elimination week. The Big Ten and the SEC has incredible matchups. Like the Big Ten has another 3-game stretch where are going to dominate the day. Ohio State, Illinois, Indiana, Oregon. We get Cignetti against Lanning, and then we also get Michigan, USC.
That's huge.
But start to think about down the road. Because everybody yesterday was cheering for the Bearcats, okay? Because it helped Nebraska's RPI. Now, are you going to cheer for USC? Because USC has Michigan and Notre Dame back-to-back. If they by chance go 1-1, they're probably not ranked. So they come in here on November 1, which is leading up to be a monster game, not ranked. I don't think Penn State should be ranked anymore. It's like the schedule is kind of like falling in line for Nebraska where you could go, damn, they won 9 games? Yeah, they won 9 games because they took advantage of the situation.
Yeah, you want to be able to get credit for who you beat, and you don't want it to come back around. Well, you beat a down Michigan team, or you lost to a down Michigan team, or you couldn't beat a down Michigan team, or you lost to a down USC team, and it's not the coaches or players' fault. It's just reality. I mean, the Penn State game was, and it still could be because it's not an easy place to go play and win. But what are they going to be in November?
Because they still have Ohio State, and that could be you lay an egg in Columbus. That could be Nebraska walks into a situation at the end of November, and everybody's talking about the future of Penn State football. Not, hey, are they going to host another playoff game? It's who's going to be the head coach here.
And don't apologize if you go get that win in a month plus if you're Nebraska, whether they're going to be a 10-2 or a 9-3 or, God forbid, an 8-4. Bama's at Missouri. That's pretty solid. You got Texas, Oklahoma. It would totally be like Texas to sting Oklahoma, who's looked pretty good. I think Texas is such a mess. And we're not going to get Cincinnati and Texas Tech this year until the Big 12 championship game.
But I think Florida goes to Texas A&M. I think that's one of the other games that's on the docket.
Kansas is a Tech.
Yeah, let me sneak in this thing about Maryland. So Nebraska is not happy that this is a 2:30 game. Nebraska was under the impression back in the spring that this would be 11 a.m. because of a short week road game, flying to Maryland, coming back, playing on a Friday night in Minneapolis. I think this was something that was talked about yesterday. I think Nebraska is leaving on Thursday.
Probably. I mean, go get settled, and because they gotta speed up their calendar a little bit because of that short week with Minnesota.
So they were trying to figure it out. Like if they were playing at 11 a.m., they figured they'd be back in Lincoln by 7. Okay, and so then they could start the clock of prep for the Friday game back on the road. Now it's 2:30. So that'll be a good, like, okay, this is to show you we're completely different. Handle business in a place that you don't normally play against an opponent you don't normally see. First real true road game. I don't consider Arrowhead a road game, but Maryland better defensively than Michigan State, but it's still Loxley, and he forgets how to win in October and November.
Well, one of the reasons why they lost yesterday is because they don't have a rushing attack. It's non-existent. I think their offense actually plays into what Nebraska's defense does well, and Washington's a good quarterback. I like Nebraska's defensive matchup here against Maryland. My one concern is the fact if they do leave on Thursday, are we not worried about the academics? Student comes first.
Thank you. That was right at the top of my agenda for today. But
good thing everything's online.
Yeah, and and same thing with NIL and transfer portal. Where's the academics in all this?
Sharpie, read your cup out loud.
Okay.
Oh,
so
that's the Bo cup.
Yeah, it's the Bo Pelini. Cup.
Where'd you get that?
Custom made.
Did you make it?
A listener sent it to me.
Sharpie went to everything silly with handwriting all of it.
I like that Nebraska's going on the road. We just changed the subject a little bit. I think it's great that they've got a road game. It's it's kind of a good for team chemistry, camaraderie, all of that. It's time to venture out from Memorial Stadium. I think it's a winnable game for sure. The schedule's whacked for the next 2 weeks, but they've known it. They know the schedule is going to be a little whacked. And it's a couple extra hours over there as opposed to coming back right when they want to. Go to Minnesota and go win that game too. But I think it's healthy for Nebraska. And just to answer people in the stream, I have zero thought that Matt Rule is going to Penn State.
Oh no. That would be
zero.
To go from a coach that
I see it in the stream, no.
To go from a coach that is unable to win top 10 games to a coach that's been unable to win top 25 games would be a choice.
I don't care if his best friend is the AD. I don't care that he went there. It's not happening. I think he cares that his family likes it here, and it's not happening.
I think this is Rule's last stop is Nebraska. And I don't think he's going to coach well into his 60s. So I don't know, 7, 8 more years as a head coach in college football?
Get it
'Cause we're
flipped
seeing-
around and hand it off.
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing what he would like to do when he's done coaching football.
That'd
You
be a
know,
media
he'd like to
guy.
help the sport. He'd like to be in kind of our world, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt.
Poor PJ Fleck, 162 total yards against that Buckeye defense.
But Schmidt, they led 3-0. It's kind of like Penn State volleyball on Friday night in the first set. They were up 2-0.
Come from behind win.
Well,
And Fleck knew it. He knew it was freaking. He needed a call from the governor. I mean, it was done.
at this point in time, Ohio State's legit, Oregon's legit, Indiana's
Miami.
legit.
Miami's.
I'm just looking at Big Ten here. Is it going to be a 3 Big Ten team in the playoff type of year?
No, I think. Well, it looked a week ago like you had a good choice of some 10-2s. I think if you go 10-2 in the Big Ten, you'll get in, especially if you're a helmet. So you're right on with this elimination game because that's going to be another loss for either Michigan or USC. Whoever gets out of that alive stays alive. I think for a playoff spot. I think Indiana is going to be in, and then Illinois. They redeemed themselves pretty well last week against SC, but I don't know. 3 for I think if they can stay unscathed, if SC gets the win and drops one to Notre Dame and gets there 10-2 with that schedule, we'll see.
Yeah.
But SC's not as tough as they need to be on the lines of scrimmage.
USC.
I don't think they win at Michigan.
I've seen enough to USC. I think has improved this year.
Mhm.
USC is still not a playoff team in my
No.
eyes.
I think they're skillful enough to be, but I just don't think they're tough enough.
You might get a 4th playoff team in just based on the Big Ten's brand. From what I've seen, I don't see a team in the Big Ten that is worthy of a 4th playoff spot yet this year. And
No.
teams are going to get better. Right now, it's just Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State in my eyes. Those are the 3 playoff teams.
But if Michigan does win at the Coliseum on Saturday, they probably they're going to be favored every game until they play Ohio State. You know, and that might be to determine if they get into the playoff or not. But I'm with you, Elijah. I think we're down to 3, and then who knows how? You know, what if Indiana, that game's not close at Oregon? Do people start to second guess Indiana?
Do you think they get blown out?
I don't know. You know, last year when they played Ohio State, they got blown out.
They got killed, but I think they're a little bit better prepared.
I think so, and I think Mendoza does things differently. That's you know what? We get a full week of Cignetti and Lanning. Now, I don't think Cignetti will be stupid enough to take a crack at Lanning, and I don't know that they're both kind of from the Saban tree, so they probably have some respect for each other.
Mhm.
But I hope that game gets a lot of billing. Do we worry about Ohio State going into Champaign with that elite defense? And that defense is filthy. And then, oh, by the way, they have Tate, they have Smith, and they have Sayin, who just threw for 326.
I said it last week. We're not talking enough about Julian Sayin. He's been really, really good. His weapons make it easy, but he's been really, really good.
Illinois, man, that feels like a spot the pig farmer could get you, but I just think Illinois, or I should say Ohio State's too good. Where does Illinois go? Because they're a one-loss squad. They got nuked by Indiana, but they still got to go to Washington after Ohio State. They'll have a bye at least. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much the SEC eats each other up and how much the Big Ten eats each other up with their
It's
the big dogs.
The great thing about this sport, and we saw it firsthand yesterday in Lincoln, man, it is week to week. It's how do you ride the roller coaster? There's only a few teams that it isn't week to week. The season begins and they're really, really good. But everybody else, it's kind of like the vibe from week to week, your mood, how you play. If you win, you survive. You know, it's kind of the new college football for teams that are in the middle pack. that you're going to have to win games where you're not at your best. Because look at Michigan yesterday. Michigan wasn't at their best, and they won 24-10. You know what they were? They 16.5-point favorite. You know, they couldn't run the ball against the best rush defense in the country, but yet Fickle kind of waved the white flag, and Michigan said, hey, thank you. We'll take the victory and move on.
Indiana's schedule, they got to go to Oregon, of course, this weekend. They're at Maryland. They're at Penn State. They host Wisconsin. They host UCLA. So totally doable. I mean,
God,
Penn
if they go
State,
to Penn State and win, oh my God.
Penn State's got
Penn State. If Indiana goes in there and beats Penn State, and Penn State with Ohio State left and Nebraska, you know, playing in the ashes of Happy Valley, that would be an amazing scenario for Nebraska to go to Happy Valley.
Don't kid yourself. Next weekend, hey, you want to talk about? Okay, they host Northwestern, but Penn State stretch at Iowa on the 18th, and then they go to Columbus, and then they host Indiana. That 3-game stretch already with 2 losses.
And Penn State's got a problem. Gary said earlier it's a Drew Aller problem, which is partially true. They have an offensive identity problem. They're running Drew Aller. Drew Aller had as many carries yesterday as Singleton. I think Katron Allen and Singleton are great. You're not utilizing them enough. You're trying to make Drew Aller a running quarterback. It's just their offensive identity is all out of whack in my eyes. I think they have a whole bunch of talent. I don't think they know how the hell to utilize them.
Well, they're trying to run the RPO offense, and Aller's not an RPO guy. He's 6'5" pocket dude. That's
where we heard that before.
Well, and you have coaches who, you know, like I think they're trying to make Arch Manning a pocket passer in Austin, and that's not him. I mean, it's basically what the start of the season has shown is we don't know shit. Okay. Texas could lose 5 games. Penn State could lose 4. I mean, you can only pick one, guys. The most disappointing, and Belichick is not involved in this conversation. The most disappointing team, and you can only pick one: Texas, Penn State, or Clemson.
Texas.
I think you got to go Penn State. You got to go Penn State.
I'm going Texas over Penn State because I just think I've seen the movie before. And as much as I like James Franklin, I didn't think they were going to beat Oregon. I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. I think it's in their mind. I thought they would beat UCLA, but I think it's in their mind that, man, once they get down, they are really down, and it's not a big major market sports talk area where they can be talking about the Giants or the Dodgers series or anything like that. It is Penn State centric, just like it's Nebraska centric, and that the vitriol is going to be hanging over James Franklin from now until the end of the season, and it was just a little bit of tinder that was going to cause that thing to blow up, and that was the loss to Oregon. And now it's just going to be a fire the rest of the way. Texas, look, should have been in the conversation to win a national championship. Even though Arch Manning hadn't proven himself, there's still so much talent on that field.
He played enough college.
To me, they're the most disappointing. They could have coached that team around him to let him grow into that Heisman Trophy favorite role. How ridiculous is that now? And I hate the Heisman Trophy. But anyway, they should have been better prepared to help him grow into the role as opposed to saying, you're the Heisman guy, let's go get it done. So Texas, to me, is the most disappointing.
You know what? Arch has played in 20 games, and he's sat for 2 seasons. And Penn State's had a 3-year starter just look horrible in big games consistently in his career. And you have 2 first-round running backs and a hell of an offensive line and refuse to lean on that. That's idiotic. That's why it's Penn State, because they're staring 8-4 in the face.
And nobody pays attention to Clemson. They're doing their own thing with the NIL and transfer portal. So he made his bed.
Hey, just think of Nebraska's November in the chaotic world of what have you done for me lately in college football. So let's say USC loses to Michigan. Again, if Michigan wins Saturday in LA, they will be a favorite all the way up to their game at home against Ohio State. So then USC has to play Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is trying to run the score up on everybody because if Notre Dame is 10-2, they're going to be in the playoff. Okay. because their 2 losses could be to 2 other playoff teams. There'll be a lot of heat on Lincoln Riley on November 1. Then Nebraska is going to go to the Rose Bowl, and they're going to play a team that's looking for a head coach. I mean, Penn State lost to a team that has gotten rid of their head coach, OC, and DC before they played them. Okay? Then, if Penn State, like Bill was laying out their schedule, let's say Penn State stumbles, Nebraska walks into Eastern Pennsylvania, and people are like, well, we got to find an exit strategy for James Franklin. And then they would come home and play what might be Kirk Ferentz's last regular season game as the head coach at Iowa. How fun is November going to be?
A lot of emotions, man, attached to each opportunity.
I mean,
Nebraska escapes with the win against Michigan State, their path to the playoff. Next time on the Average Joe.
Look at this butterfly effect. Line of dominoes about to fall. Not only is the schedule, air quote, deemed manageable, then everything went to hell in the handbasket for the teams on said schedule.
Hey, my nuclear scenario for college football is still very much in play, and I've been praying for this since last season, that Michigan beats Ohio State wins a national championship, and people want Ryan Day fired. What happens if Ohio State goes to Michigan, gets beat by Michigan again, and Ohio State goes on to win another national championship, and people in Columbus still will want Ryan Day fired? Back-to-back losses to Michigan again. I mean, it'd be like, 4 in a row? But back-to-back national championships with losses to Sharon Moore, and people would be like, we got to get James Franklin in here.
Not so fast. Remember, Miami could play the national championship game on their home field.
True.
Oh, shocking. Like that hasn't happened before.
I know.
I'm not prepared to talk about Miami in the national championship game just yet.
I just want the.
Elijah's got a 9-3 Canes still in his back pocket.
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
But guys, the Broncos game starts in 2 minutes. So can we put a
okay? Elijah, be good. Sharpie, thank you much.
Thanks, guys.
Bill Doleman, Chris Schmidt, find Sharpie 6-10 with, of course, Matt. Make that Gary and Matt. About got punched through the screen. Gary and Matt, 6-10, Monday through Friday. Find us on the Average Joe Sports Show over on KFOR 4 to 6. Be good.
Elijah Herbel Show with Chris Schmidt.
Thank you, Vikings.
Average Joe Sports Show, YouTube, Twitter, AJ Sports Radio, AJ Sports Pod. Appreciate you all in the stream.
Financial advice: take the Broncos money line today.
Oh, jeez.
There's the lock of the week.
Yeah.
All right.
Go Chiefs,
fellas, be
Elijah.
good. Thank you much.